The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a platform and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co. Nathan Douglas. Nathan is one of the greatest triple jumpers Great Britain has ever seen. He's continually admired for his elegant style, graceful technique, and spring in which he carries out the triple jump, and which has allowed him to develop as a world-class athlete. Nathan has always had a passion for performance psychology, which led him to achieve his BSc in Sport and Exercise Science Psychology, and he is also an ICF certified professional coach and a licensed practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. Well, my work with him, I think I've said before, I'm always extremely interested in interviewing sports and athletes and the mindset that they have to prepare themselves for the Olympics, to overcome adversity. And, you know, Nathan's a guy that struggled with injury for quite a few years, but he's also been very successful, but he keeps coming back. And he's just a great guy. And I was honored to provide him the opportunity to do some NLP training, which he's obviously using now. And it's just been great to see how he's flourishing and how he's now helping others to have the mindset that it requires in sports and business to succeed. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy the interview. Thank you so much. Hi, and welcome to Inspiring People. I'm Bernardo Moya, and today I've got the pleasure of interviewing Nathan Douglas. Nathan is an Olympian, and he's a European medalist, and also one of Britain's best triple jumpers. Thank you very much for being here, Nathan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your early years.
My early years, so I grew up in Oxford. That's originally where I'm from. I started athletics at the age of 7 years old, where literally it was just a race in the school playground. That's what it was. You know, there's the fastest kid in school, as there always is. I joined in the race, and I ended up winning the race. He then invited me to my local athletics club. I went along, trained, hated it at first. Absolutely hated it. I remember I was only 7, so I remember running out crying, actually, because I was such a nanny's boy and my nan wasn't with me. And then my friend's mum convinced me to go back in, and Dr. Watery just absolutely loved it from that moment on.
And what was school like for you? Did you enjoy it?
School was difficult for me. The early years was very difficult. When I left my first school, I couldn't really read and write in my first school. And it was just because I was just so active. You know, if you speak to my grandparents, I was brought up in younger years by my grandparents. I was just so active. I was never really interested in doing anything academically, I suppose, really learning anyway, like, in that shape or form. So the first school was hard. Then I went on to my middle school, and I actually knuckled down a little bit. I realised it wasn't that I was stupid. It wasn't that I was dumb. It's that I hadn't learned, I suppose, really, how to read and write. And my middle school really knuckled down on me. And by the time I left there, which was year 8, I had a read and write age of like 16, 17. So, you know, I'd gone completely the opposite way. And then from there, everything worked really well for me academically.
You said you were brought up by your grandparents.
Yeah.
What happened to your parents?
Well, so my mum had me at a very young age, at 20 years old.
Okay.
And so what she decided was that she would find work, which was in Brighton at the time, and made the very courageous decision to allow me to stay with my grandparents, because I'd just started nursery and school and that kind of stuff. So they thought it made sense, because obviously I'd now made friends, etc., rather than uproot me. Mm-hmm. My dad's never been in my life. I know exactly who he is, etc., but he's just never been in my life whatsoever at all. So, yeah, mainly those younger years I was brought up by my grandparents until my mum came back to Oxford as well, and then she came back when I was around, I think, 10 or 11.
And I suppose it must have been a bit challenging not having your mum at your early years, was it?
It was a challenge. Yeah. And also, my family is a whole bunch of colours. So it's so mixed race. So my nan, for example, is white. So she'll come and pick me up from school and everyone would be like, that's not your mum. And I'm like, well, obviously it's not my mum, that's my nan. And they were like, but that's not your nan. How can that be your nan? Your nan's white, you're black. And I'm like, but that is my nan. And the only time that didn't really happen was if my granddad picked me up, because my granddad was black and he's from Dominica. So that was a challenge also. And kids being kids, as you can imagine, they're like, well, you know, where's your real dad and all of those kind of bits and pieces. So it was challenging. But athletics for me really always gave me that way out to just go and enjoy myself in, you know, whatever event it was I was doing at the time. And especially in those early years when academically things weren't working out well for me.
So when you started in athletics and you really started enjoying it, what were you standing out in? What were you enjoying in those early years?
I was just quick.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, really. I was really quick. As a youngster, I had a lot of spring, hence why I'm in triple jump now. But you know, I've done a lot of long jump. I've done a little bit of high jump, but surprisingly, I actually done some cross country and 800 meters until I realised that was too painful. And I'm not interested in anything with running that kind of distance or that far. So I started to kind of bring it down really to 200, 100 long jump. And then my club didn't have a triple jumper. So they presumed, you know, he's quick. He can long jump, have a go at triple jump. And I didn't have a clue at first. It took me absolutely ages to get the hop, step and jump. I just kept on doing 2 steps and all of this nonsense. And then I realised I was actually better at triple jump than the other events. And so it worked really magically. It was just, you know, I'd never even thought about triple jump. And then all of a sudden I go into this event and boom, I'm so much better than everything else. So I carried on the sprinting, carried on the long jump, but quite naturally, as you can imagine, the triple jump kind of started to take over.
Was there anybody in your early years that helped you, a coach that stood out for you or inspired you?
I had a coach called Steve Hill. So he coached me from 7 years old until 18. So, you know, he was a very good coach for me. He's more than a coach, really, to be honest. You know, he was more than that. He really did help me at times, for sure. And my family, and obviously especially my nan, were a huge rock. Absolutely a huge rock for me. You know, they were the ones that, we never had much money, you know, when I was growing up. So they'd be the ones trying to fork out money to get me kit or new spikes or take me to train and, you know, all of those stuff. Because I was training, twice a week, which isn't much, but it's still, it all adds up, you know, petrol money, etc., etc. So I really owe a lot to those guys, for sure. And Steve, I'm still in contact with Steve, not so much now, but he knows how huge he was as a part of my career, for sure. You know, he tried everything to push me on. As soon as he realised I was talented, he'd get me training with the older kids. So he wouldn't just keep me there. He realised that he needed to push me. He needed to advance me the best that he could. And then once I reached 18 years old and I was at that university age, I was thinking I would really like to go to university now. But I didn't want to leave Steve, because in my head, I believed Steve could take me on to become Olympic champion. You know, I was that kind of, I suppose, I want to say naive a little bit, because I didn't know the full knowledge, I suppose, that Steve did or didn't have. Steve knew he'd take me as far as he could, though. And rather than hold me back, like a lot of coaches do to your athletes, unfortunately, because they know they have a talented youngster, he actually pushed me on. And he said, look, go to Loughborough University, because that's where I got accepted. Go to Loughborough University. I think you will flourish. Go there. And that's when I met my first professional coach, I suppose, called Ted King.
And how was university for you? Did you enjoy those years? Was it and this new part of your life?
I did. Again, similar to when I first started athletics. I didn't like it. And it's just a very similar scenario. You know, I was out there on my own, didn't know anybody at all. And so that was quite a difficult time for me. The first year, I kept thinking I might stop university. Especially as you can imagine, doing uni and training was fairly difficult. And at that age, all of your friends are out partying and having fun and all of that stuff. And I was like, wow, I'd kind of like to do that. So you felt like you was missing out. But my goals, you know, of what I wanted to achieve in my athletics career always tugged me back in. And I remember my mum at the time, my poor mum at this time, she'd always drive up and down weekly to university just to make sure I'd be okay, or come pick me up, take me home, etc. And then she just said to me, look, please just stay at uni over a weekend and see what it's like. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a go. And as soon as I'd done that, you know, I made more friends, met more people, met more other students, met more people. And I started to love it again. And it ended up being some of the best years of my life. It really was. It was a huge challenge to balance my athletics career and my academics. That was a huge challenge. But that just come down to time management, really. It was literally, I would get up, I'll go to lectures. I'll get up, I'll go training, then I'll go to lectures. Then I might have some lunch, carry on obviously with some lectures, out to train, back home, get some dinner, do coursework and repeat. That was a lot of my life at university. At the same time, I tried to balance it with having the usual university fun you're supposed to have.
Well, you started competing kind of like in your early years. It must have been hard. I mean, we can only imagine what it's like to get up and train and prepare for these amazing challenges you've got ahead of you. How was that?
Well, when I was young, you don't really think about it. You just get on. It's just something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed winning, firstly. And I think with athletics, there's something pure about it because it's just you against someone else, and it's either you're quicker or you're not. All of those bits and pieces. I really love that. As you develop as an athlete, as you can imagine, the pressure increases. The first time you put on that Great Britain vest, for example, that's completely different than competing in, your local park, for argument's sake, And those pressures were real, but I always battered them off by realising that what I wanted to achieve was more than any other outside pressures. There were times when pressure obviously would have got to me, especially as a youngster. And I had to learn how to get over that, and I learned fairly quickly how to get over that. But yeah, there was, balancing the pressure was quite hard because you can imagine if you go out to compete, and I'll give you an example, at Olympic Games, think how many millions of people there are on TV watching you. Not just that, you then start thinking about all of the people that you've grown up with can then be watching you on TV. And then you've got potential sponsors. Then you've got your national governing body. You've got your coach. You might have your family in the stands. You don't want to let them down. All of that stuff. And I actually remember for my first Olympic Games, my family was so scared for me, thinking, what about if he messes this up? What if it doesn't go well? And I just said to them, you need to realise that I have achieved one of my dreams already because I've qualified for an Olympic Games. And when I qualified for Olympic Games, actually, it was by surprise. So that was another big shock to people. But when I went out there to compete, there's so many people was wishing me well. Walking out, people shouting my name and stuff. I just thought, well, how can I fail out here? People are showing me such love, I suppose, really. It took me by surprise. And so I actually went out there and really enjoyed myself and actually done myself justice at my first senior outing.
And I suppose when you look at kind of what you learned, what do you think your coaches and the people that have helped you evolve into who you become, what's kind of like the best insights or the best techniques or advice they've given you?
Staying true to yourself is probably a big one, to be honest, because I think in sport it's very easy to feel you have to kind of conform to other bits and pieces. People would like you to act a specific way because obviously you do need to be professional for sure, and I've always been professional, but people would like you to act a specific way. And I think if you can be true to yourself, your personality, then you're always going to bring the best out of your performance. As when I speak to kids now and I say, when you go out there, because if they're, obviously they're going to be nervous, I'm like, just go and have fun. No, what do you mean have fun? Well, why did you come into this in the first place? What did you do as a child when you went to go and compete? I'm like, I don't care what it is that you have to do to have fun. Whether that's, I don't know, pulling a funny face at someone in the crowd, I don't care. If that makes you laugh and you have fun, go out there and do it. And, you'll just find your best performances will come out.
If you're interested in working with me, contributing to the magazine, maybe speaking at any of our many events around the world, partnering or licensing The Best You, go to www.thebestyou.co.
And you've suffered, obviously, with quite a lot of injuries over the years. That must have been, heartbreaking when you've been training and preparing for a specific tournament or the Olympics. How do you deal with these kind of injuries?
It has been very difficult, for sure. Missing 2012 was probably the most difficult part for me. That was a very dark year for me because I remember when we actually won the Olympic Games, and I was still fairly early in my career, but I was doing quite well on a world stage. I remember thinking, this is where I could potentially get my gold medal in London. I was thinking, what a dream! Like, couldn't get any better. So to pick up a freak injury the year before in 2011, where basically I was in a training camp in Italy, and we have these plyometrics boxes. Plyometrics is just a fancy word for hopping and bounding and stuff like that. So we was bounding on and off these boxes, so hopping on and off these boxes, and I went straight through the box. The box just collapsed, and this was the year before the Olympic Games. And people said to me, this is career threatening, not just can you make it back for the Olympics, can you make it back at all? And I managed to make it back just in time. My mindset straight away, I just flipped towards, I will do everything within my capability to make sure that I'm back in time. And I just done that. I made sure there's no stone unturned, just done what I could. There probably was a couple of corners a little bit that had to be cut, I suppose, to get back in time. And then first competition, where was it? I think I was in Holland. And I ran down and I slipped on the board. And when I slipped on the board, I then ruptured my hamstring tendon. And so that was Olympics gone. And I just couldn't believe it, really. I was kind of like, why would I get such a big hit of injuries, 2 big career-threatening injuries in a row, when I was hoping this would be, the whole pinnacle of my career, really. Obviously, my ankle still wasn't correct, which is why I then pulled my hamstring for that the year after my ankle incident. And that was difficult. I wanted to run away, if I'm honest. I'm trying to think how best to put it to you. When you see a dream that big, and then the whole country is enveloped in that dream, it's like living in a recurring nightmare. Because, you can go to, go shopping, for argument's sake, go buy some food, and there it is, Olympics, London 2012. Turn on the TV, London 2012. Pay everywhere. You couldn't get away from. I knew athletes who just went away on holiday. They're like, I haven't made it, so I'm just going away. I also knew, because I've been to 2 Olympic Games before that an Olympic Games is a special time. And especially, obviously, being in London. So I thought, I'm going to try my best to be part of it, even though it's going to be hard. So I threw myself into some media stuff, so I really enjoyed that. And I actually went and watched the men's triple jump final, which was painful, very painful, because I was hoping that was going to be my day. At the same time, just gave me extra hunger and motivation to make sure that I can get back and perform, to the levels that I know I can perform at.
Well, you got to admire you guys, especially how you train and how hard you train and everything you got to go through to get there. And then, you have these situations or these challenges that life throws at you. But I think, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I'm sure, as I said, you've definitely learned something from it.
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt. I often say to people that may work in an office or something, they're like, what's injury like? I'm like, imagine having to do photocopying for months on end. That's literally what injury is like, because all you're doing is rehabbing. You can't see that you're necessarily helping your performance or getting closer to your goal. You're just there doing all these little exercises to make sure, that you can actually get back from your injury. Once you're outside of that, it's a bit better, but you still have to close that gap now to where you was before. But it's a horrible time. I wouldn't wish injury on anybody, in athletics career, because it's just horrible. And as much as you want your teammates to do well, when you're seeing them obviously on TV winning gold medals, etc., you can't help but wish that was you, for sure. So that's just as difficult as well. But it's like any situation. There's ups and downs in life, for sure. You never know what's going to be thrown at you, let's be honest. And you have to deal with that. You have to be flexible enough to be able to deal with that. If not, you're going to struggle.
Exactly. It's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
So I know you've done some NLP training.
Yeah.
You did a few years ago with Richard Bandler. So, and you came with a coach. You came along with a coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Ted King. Ted King coached me from 2001 up until 2009. And then Aston Moore took me on from then. So that was who came along with me, Aston Moore, my coach, and he's still my coach now. And I've always had an interest, I suppose, in psychology. Back from doing my sports science degree, that was all, the favourite part for me. But also anything to do with success, performance, becoming a better you, that kind of thing. Anything around that always intrigued me. And I picked up on NLP when I was at university. So I had a few books on NLP, and I always thought, I fancy knowing a bit more about that. And then after 2012, I started to think about other bits and pieces I'd like to do because that was such a tough time in my career. I felt I was putting everything towards athletics, and it wasn't giving me back what I would like to have got from it, really. And so I wasn't doing stuff that I enjoyed. So I thought, well, what other passions do I have? And psychology being one of them, NLP obviously being one of them, I thought, let me just take this route and see where it kind of goes. And that's what actually led me to end up doing an NLP practitioner with Bandler.
So you and your coach, I mean, and I suppose obviously when it comes down to the techniques you do in order to increase your performance, you obviously had your own skills and things that you would do. But how do you feel that NLP has helped you, if in any way, to become a better athlete or even moving forward in life for the future?
It has helped. Interestingly, when I went on a course, and I know Aston shared some of these aspects with me, some of the things that we was taught we thought as athletes, we kind of learned along the way. So let me give you an example, like a reframe, for example. Mm-hmm. As an athlete, you have to be able to reframe very, very quickly. You get an injury, you have to be able to reframe that, and turn it into a positive. Okay, well, that means I can go and do this, etc., etc. But there was other things that I actually thought, okay, they are great tools and techniques that I can take away with me. And even if there was something that I knew that I had already done naturally, to actually be given it as a tool was like, actually, I didn't really think of it like that. I just do that quite naturally. So now I can actually draw on those things, I suppose, as and when I wish. But not just that, I can actually help other people. That's probably one of the biggest things out of the NLP that I brought, is I've got so many more tools now in my bag to actually help other people that it's been very beneficial for me.
What's your plans with your career moving forward?
I'm still competing. So this year is the Rio Olympic Games. So I'm looking to qualify for that. I have one qualifier in the bag already. I need another, and I need to come top 2 at our national championships. So that's the aim for that. Outside of athletics, I'm now building my performance coaching practice. I said to you, with 2012 being that difficult time, I decided, what other things do I want to do? Part of that NLP journey was actually deciding that I wanted to become a peak performance coach. And not working in sport as such, actually help people in all different kind of avenues. I'm helping a lot of people really, I suppose, in the corporate world, because as you can imagine, there's a massive crossover with sport and performance. And what I saw was a lot of people are putting themselves up there, I suppose, as a performance coach. And then when I've looked into them, into their history, I thought, what do you actually know about performance?
Maybe the car they drive.
Maybe. And so I just looked at it and thought, well, my history and my whole life has been about absolute extreme performance, not just a little bit. We're trying to be the very best in the world here. That kind of that 1 percentile. So I was thinking, I really believe that I can help other people to achieve world-class performance. And so that's why NLP has been so great for me. Like I said, I can now use those tools along with my own experience to actually help other people. And I'll be honest, I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving it, because actually helping other people inspires myself too. I might be inspiring them and giving them tools, how to actually be better themselves. But I get so much out of it. It's so rewarding for me also. So I really just want to build on that.
Well, and I think kind of people that are looking at, improving in their lives or increasing performance in whatever it is that they want, in order to have someone, or a mentor or trainer or someone like you who can, with your experience, must make a massive difference. So your performance coach company, is it called Jump?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. So my company's called Jump. The reasoning behind Jump is that with performance or improvements in performance, there's often a big jump in performance. And so what I like to do is I like to help people actually create that jump as such. So a lot of time people think, it's just a very slow, steady progress. And there is obviously elements of that, but you kind of need to know where you're aiming for, Where are you going? And once you know that, you can work out how to make that jump to that level. But not just there, you then have to look forward from there also. And now decide, where's the next jump from there? Because as soon as you have those bits and pieces in there, you can make those progressions so much quicker than just plodding along. And obviously jump works with my career too, so I thought jump makes sense to me.
What do you think your best assets are?
My best assets. The first thing that comes to me is mental strength, for sure. I've always known I've been very mentally strong from a young age. For whatever reason, I've always had that in there. I think some of it would have to do with my upbringing also. You know, my grandparents were very pivotal in that, for sure, and always made sure that I had true belief in myself. They always said, you can achieve absolutely anything. So if I go back to when I said to you I started athletics at 7 years old, I remember going home to my nan and saying to her, I want to be Olympic champion. And that's just crazy, you know, this is literally after my first training day. And she just said to me, if you believe you can achieve that, go for it. Nothing can stop you. And, you know, to tell a 7-year-old that, that's so empowering. You just think, wow, you know, I can really become an Olympic champion. And I think that just fed into so many other areas. You know, as I said to you, academically, I struggled. But then I started to pick up, and I think all of those kind of beliefs kind of gelled in and helped me really, you know, improve that. So I'd say mental strength for sure is probably my biggest asset. And I truthfully believe that mindset really is huge. In the sporting world, and in most industries, I suppose, but in the sporting world, you get to a level where everybody's talented. It's as simple as that. You know, you're standing on that runway or what have you, the other athletes near you are just as talented as you are. But some of them are crumbling because they can't handle the pressure. You know, so you got to make sure that you're the guy that's out there handling the pressure. You know, you have to be resilient enough. You have to be absolutely dedicated to your sport. You know, make it an art, really, because that's how I look at triple jump. Triple jump, if you was to look at, I suppose, Jonathan Edwards, let's say, everybody would probably put Jonathan Edwards as the best technical model. It is so technical, triple jump, to get it on point. It really is an art. So you have to then go and master that. You know, it's not just a little thing that you can take lightly. You have to look into that, to all of the little intricacies, and master that technique. But yeah, for me, mindset is definitely my greatest asset, for absolute sure.
And self-belief, I would say, as well, no?
Yeah, but I would put the self-belief within the mindset. Mindset is such a big area anyway. I suppose I'll put that in there with the mindset, because there's so many different areas. Obviously, you know, I've had to be extremely dedicated, for sure. Getting over injuries, I've had to be so determined. It's crazy. And obviously you'd have to add resilience, obviously, into that. You're saying self-belief. You have to have self-belief, because once you're out there and you know you're with these other guys that are talented, you know, how can you feel you're going to beat these guys if you know they're so good as well? You have to go out there with that mindset that you are almost, I suppose, really, I've said to people, you wouldn't necessarily go and say this to the media, you know, with this kind of mindset, but you almost have to perform with a bit of an arrogant mindset. You know, you have to go out and say, well, I'm better than all these guys, so I don't care what they've got on this day. Today's my day, and I'm taking this. You almost have to do that of yourself, and it just really gets your performance up. You know, you don't necessarily have to, you know, take that away of you and, you know, absolutely like swan around like you truly believe that. But on the day of performance, you have to get yourself into that kind of mindset just to get the absolute best out of yourself.
If you're interested in watching the video content of this interview and many others, or interested in learning from world leaders and teachers, go to www.thebestyou.online.
And I think a lot of people, you know, whatever stage they are at life, either in their early years or if they've got a reinvention or they're going through a process of reinventing themselves, I think a lot of people lack that. I think a lot of people don't have that mindset and that self-belief in order to think that they can achieve anything. Well, what do you think the best assets that people could have in general, if it is related to sports?
The best assets? I'll probably go with, actually, I know obviously I've said mindset for myself, but if I had to break the mindset down a little bit, the self-belief, I'll go with that, because as you just said, if you're reinventing yourself or you came to a hurdle in life, a lot of people, they hit that and they think, I can't do this. I failed because it's been one little failure. And it's like, well, no, come on, you've got to have the belief to keep going through all of that. So I would definitely say that the self-belief, because there'll be times that regardless of what you do, there'll be people that doubt your performance. And that's hard to take. I've been there where I felt, actually, where I've only been able to count on myself for my belief. I've been in certain championships where I've actually felt, even with my coach, at certain times that they don't believe that I can achieve what I feel I can achieve. And I've actually pushed and I've achieved it. And there's been a few times, and my coach along the way have said, "You surprised me. I didn't think he's going to be able to pull that out of the bag." Now if I would have taken on to their vibes as such, maybe my performance wouldn't have been so big. So you have to have that real self-belief that you can really achieve, whatever it is you want to achieve, whatever ambitions, whatever dream you have to just go after it with everything. And it is tough. It's tough. If you have people saying, that's not possible, after a while, it's quite easy to think you're a bit crazy because all these people think it's not possible. But then they soon change their tune when, you make the impossible possible. And so I always say, with the impossible stuff, it just means that it hasn't been done. That's how I look at it. People say, that's impossible. That's because nobody's achieved it yet. But as soon as you've achieved it, it becomes possible.
I mean, when you look at kind of like, we were talking about NLP previously, and NLP is the study of excellence of people that are successful at achieving or doing certain things and replicating or modelling that. Have you modelled or learned from a lot of people in sports, either from a technique point of view or mindset or their work ethic?
Yeah, for sure. And again, these are one of the things that I've done naturally for me. Some of my earliest memories in sport would have been watching Linford Christie. Firstly, obviously I was 9 years old when he won his Olympic gold medal. I'd literally been in athletics 2 years, so without a shadow of a doubt, he was going to be an inspiration for me because he's a 100-meter Olympic champion. I was a sprinter at the time. Obviously I would love to have achieved that. So I used to see how Linford would set himself up mentally, and you used to always see in the papers how strong Linford was. That's all they was ever write about, is the mentality that Linford would come with, and they'd actually put other athletes off because he was that strong, and he'd have that tunnel vision, and you'd see the look on his face. So I would have for sure, with my mindset, I said I would have probably modelled myself around Linford at that age. Technically, there's been a few different people, actually. Growing up, I used to watch the start of Frankie Fredericks. So when I was a sprinter, I used to really like how he came out of the blocks. So I modelled myself on him, for sure, naturally. For triple jump, it took me a little bit longer because I didn't come to the event straight away. So, if I stepped back and I said something like long jump, I used to look at people like Mike Powell and Carl Lewis. I'd model myself on those guys. How are they taking off if they put their foot here, and what are they doing with their arms? Naturally, I would look at that and actually start to mimic what they would do. And I remember going training, pretending I was Mike Powell and stuff like that. And even that is modelling yourself in that way. You can see all of the little visuals in your mind when you then go to train. I never knew I was doing that at the time, but obviously I've done it. With the triple jump, I haven't based my technique on anybody, but I've looked at some of the people that I think are technically very, very good. I suppose Jonathan has to be up there. He's the world record holder for absolute sure. So, I've looked at his. Mike Conley is very good. And also the Cubans, genuinely, the Cubans are a very good technical model. So I've looked at a lot of the Cuban jumpers over the years as well. And their technique probably suits me a little bit because I'm quite springy. If you were to compare me to, say, Jonathan Edwards was very, very quick and nailed his contacts, so he looked like he was just a skimming stone across the ground. I'm a little bit bouncier than Jonathan. So my technique is slightly different in that way. I'd say it's a little bit more Cuban-esque as such.
Looking at the Olympics 2012, what do you think the impact has had in athletics in GB now?
I know there's been a lot made that the legacy hasn't been what everybody expected. My answer to that is that's way too early, in my opinion. We're 3 to 4 years down the line. I have young cousins, for example, who watched the Olympic Games at that time and absolutely loved it. You know, not just the Olympics, they love the Paralympic Games too. And, you know, one of my cousins specifically, he was spouting out so many athletes' names, I couldn't believe it. So when people are saying, you know, that the legacy and stuff like that, I think you have to wait. You're not going to see the kind of effect now. I think in the sporting world for performances, more likely 2020. Because the people that are inspired then, you know, 8 years on for the 2020 Olympic Games, you know, these are the kind of people that might make Olympic Games. Somebody who's, for argument's sake, 12 years old in 2012, for them to make an Olympic Games by 16, that would be fairly miraculous. You know, there's not many people that can do that. But now those 12-year-olds in 2020 will be 20. So it'd be very interesting, I think, at that time to see how many people were actually inspired by the 2012 Olympics. Actually, there's a young sprinter we have now, I think, I'm trying to make sure this is correct now, called Dina Asher-Smith. She went to the 2012 Games, I think, and took part as like taking kit out, I think, or something along those lines. Dina is now one of the best sprinters we have in our country. And in my opinion, I think she's going to go down as the best female athlete, especially in sprints that we've had in this country. I believe she's that much of a talent. Right. You know, so it goes to show, I think it's just going to take a little while to show that legacy.
Pay off. And how do you stay focused and motivated? Because, you know, it can't be easy going out there and preparing for another race and training and taking care of yourself. How do you stay focused?
I just focus on my end goal. It's as simple as that, you know. People have asked me many times, how have I got through all of these injuries? Why haven't you stopped? It's for the love of what I do. You know, I told you from 7 years old what my dream was. And I feel I have unfinished business, I suppose, within the sport. And I love what I do. If I didn't love it, I definitely wouldn't do it. If I didn't feel I could perform at a high level, I wouldn't do it either. Because both of those things are linked for me. You know, I do love to compete and I love to triple jump for sure. But I love to do it at a high level. So they're linked. But that's what drives me every single day that I'm training, is the love that I have for the sport and, you know, the actual goals that I want to achieve. And the times when it's been hard, I've always refocused on that. You know, and because I've been able to refocus on that, it's pushed me through. Now, I'm not saying that the times that were difficult, you know, I didn't allow myself to feel those feelings, because I think it's quite important that we have to realise that we are humans, firstly. You know, we are built of emotion as much as people don't want to. And I often find this with clients that I work with. They say to me, I want to be resilient. I never want to be upset and stuff. I get too upset, etc., etc. And I always say to them, well, are you human? And I'm like, of course. I'm like, well, being sad is an emotion. So there's nothing wrong with being sad. It's how long you keep yourself there for. So the times when I was injured, I would literally just, you know, after a while, I say to myself, enough's enough now. You know, stop beating yourself up, stop being silly with all of this now. Now it's time to refocus and push back on. But I would allow myself to have that moment of being sad. And as you can imagine, naturally, there's been times I wanted to walk away from the sport. It's only, you know, so many times you can keep getting hit without feeling those kind of emotions. So I have contemplated, I thought, you know, I don't want to do this. This is getting a bit tough now. This is getting rough. And every time I've got to that, I'm like, well, for sure. You know, I absolutely want to push through this. And not just for myself, actually. I want to show people that you can get out of these difficult situations. You cannot get out of difficulty. And I want to inspire other people to actually do this also. You know, again, in whatever walk of life that it is, you know, no matter what life throws at you, you can push through this. You can still strive. You can still achieve your absolute goals. You just got to have that belief. You've got to have that hunger. You've got to have that desire. And you've got to have the strength of character to really push on for that.
Great advice. And I think you were saying before about being resilient. I think part of the problem is that I think we need to put things in perspective as well. You know, we're very blessed and very lucky with where we live and the lifestyle that we have. If we compare it to other people who have real challenges, So you know,
the perspective is a huge one, for absolute sure. You know, this is slightly different perspective than the line that you're going down. But when we talk about pressure and stress and being nervous, if I go to compete, and you start fearing what could happen, I always just think to myself, well, what's the worst that can happen? I perform bad. I'm not going to die. I'm still going to be breathing. I'm still going to have a beautiful family around me, etc., etc. So that's great. So then I put that to one side and then focus on what I really what I want to do. So just having that kind of perspective really does help you. And like you said, living in the country we're living in, in the kind of the Western world, let's say as such, we are so privileged to so other places within the world. And when you look at it from that perspective, you have to feel a bit more at ease and a bit happier, I suppose, with your life. You have to.
Nathan, and my last question. What's the plans in the future? You in 60, 70 years from now? What's your legacy?
That's a big plan.
You haven't made that picture yet?
I've had people say to me, what's my 5-year plan, 10-year plan, but 60 years down the line. I really don't know, actually, 60 years down the line. I suppose going along my performance coaching stuff, I want to build that as big as I can, and I want to help as many people as I can, to become the best version of themselves, to really achieve and actually know what it takes to achieve world-class performance. So the more people I can help on that route, the better. So 60, 70 years down the line, let's hope that I've created some kind of, massive monster as such that's going to help people, along their route in life and really just help them achieve their dreams.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you very much for watching Inspiring People. Thank you.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.